Welcome to the Teacher Residency webinar. This webinar is designed as an overview for the teacher residency proposals that are coming out this fall. My name is Terry Clark. I direct the Professional Services Division.
And my name is Michelle Peralt, and I direct the Administrative Services Division. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As Ms. Clark mentioned, this is going to be an overview about our 2018 RFP process related to our teacher residency grants.
The RFP itself, and then the questions and answer document that will be posted on the Commission's webpage, those are the official documents that you should use to guide you as you develop your proposal in response to any of the 3 RFPs related to teacher residency. The Commission is very excited about these RFPs. This is really a fundamental shift in how new teachers are going to be prepared in California. It's a very important shift. The shift is that the local education agencies, the schools, the charter schools, the districts, the county offices, you'll have an integral role to play in the teacher preparation process. With a teacher residency program, it's not sufficient for you to say, yes, you can place a student teacher in our classroom, and then just let the institution of higher education do all the other activities. Instead, under this teacher residency approach, it's LEAs and IHEs effectively working together to prepare new teachers for the local school district and concurrently to meet all of California's requirements for the teaching credential.
With that, let's talk about what entities are eligible to apply and receive grant funds throughout this process. Those eligible include school districts, county offices of education, charter schools, regional occupational centers or programs operated by Joint Powers Authority, or non-public, non-sectarian schools as defined in Education Code 56034.
To provide you a little bit more information, for number 5, these non-public, non-sectarian schools, these are actually private schools, and they're private schools where public school students who are on IEPs have been placed for services when the public school is not able to provide the services. The reason these are the entities in the enabling legislation is that these are Prop 98 funds, so the LEA is the only eligible entity to receive the funds. All applying LEAs must provide either the CD code, the county district code, or the CDS code, the county district school code, in the case of charter schools, on their proposal and on your letter of intent. The funds are expected to be shared across all the partners that are offering the program. I also need to point out that charter management organizations are not eligible to apply for these funds or to be the actual grantee. Charter schools are eligible. The charter school may partner with its CMO for this work.
So what is a teacher residency preparation program? A residency preparation program is a true partnership between a local education agency, or an LEA, and a commission-approved institution of higher education, or an IHE. It's designed to prepare individuals for a California teaching credential as well as provide contextual preparation for that specific LEA.
This partnership needs to be authentic. The LEA or LEAs, if it's a consortium application, and the IHE they work with, or the IHEs, if it's more than one, must all be committed to this partnership and work collaboratively. Leadership from both, or if it's more than 2, all of the organizations need to be involved and supportive of the work. Coming soon in this presentation are specific slides about key requirements for the teacher residency preparation program. Please pay careful attention to those. We do want to point out that although the IHE must be a full partner, because the IHE will provide the guidance to the LEA so that they are collaboratively offering that teacher preparation program that meets the Commission's credentialing requirements. The IHE must submit the credential recommendation once the candidate has completed the program, and the IHE must work with the LEA, though, to develop that program to meet the local contextual needs. So IHEs can be a partner in this, but they may not submit the grant proposal. An authentic partnership is one of the key ideas.
Okay, so which RFPs should an LEA respond to? We have 3 different grant opportunities. The first is our capacity grant, and this grant is to develop a teacher residency program for folks who need time and support to develop the plan for your program. Somebody who doesn't currently have a program. An expansion grant is to expand a currently operating teacher residency program. And finally, our residency grant is to implement the teacher residency program after having a fully formed plan for your program.
This fall, there will be 3 grant opportunities. One of these grants is currently open, the capacity grant. The expansion grant and residency grant will be posted later in the fall. An LEA may respond to 1, 2, or less likely all 3 of these grant opportunities. For the capacity grant, this is really the case where the LEA and the IHE, they're looking at developing a new program. They've not worked together in a teacher residency program. Or it may be a situation where this LEA and IHE have worked together in a teacher residency approach, but it was for one subject area that may not be involved in this grant. So say an IHE and LEA were working together for a multiple subject teacher residency program. And now they want to expand to be offering a bilingual, a special education, a math, or science residency program. This would be an expansion opportunity. But you could also apply for the capacity grant first to plan for this new program. There is a limit of $1.5 million out of the $75 million that's available for these capacity grants. For the expansion grants, currently if an LEA is already working with an IHE to offer a residency program, you want to expand, you want to offer additional teacher residents, bring them into your program, you want to go into additional content areas that you're not already working in. These would be residents in the 1920 school year. Key thing here is this cannot supplant your current work that's taking place. So if you already have a residency program operating with 20 residents, you cannot apply for this expansion grant for those same 20 residents next year. This would be additional residents or new areas. A limit of $25 million has been placed on this use for expansion funds, which will be an earlier grant opportunity this fall. 2/3 of the funds would be devoted to special education residents and 1/3 to STEM and or bilingual residents. The third grant opportunity is the residency, the full residency proposal. We expect that any LEA that gets a capacity grant in the very first round is going to be planning and hopefully therefore then submitting a proposal for the full residency grant. This is a proposal to use state funds to implement a residency program. This can be one that's currently operating, one that has been planned through a capacity grant that was given by the Commission in fall of 2018, or one that you have planned independent of the capacity grants that are from the state of California. There is a fourth set of proposals that's coming out. In fact, it's going to be posted very soon. Those are for local solutions to recruit, prepare, and retain special education teachers. There will be an additional webinar done and posted on that for that program. There is a prohibition in the local solutions grant funds that you cannot use the same money for the same resident and also in local solutions. So if an individual is getting funding through a residency grant, they cannot also be funded through a local solutions grant.
So let's talk specifically about the capacity grants. The capacity grant RFP has already been released and posted to the Commission's website. It was released on August 24th. Proposals will be due to the Commission no later than September 24th by 5 p.m. Listed in addition are all of the other due dates and requirements as it relates to the capacity grant.
These exact dates are in the RFP. They must be met for your proposal to be considered. Please note that we are asking for both paper, 4 copies, and an electronic version of your proposal. They must be received by the Commission by 5 p.m. on September 24th. I very much encourage you that when the proposal is submitted electronically, that you request a confirming email that the proposal was received. We do have a firewall situation that if the proposal were over 10 megabytes, which it should not be, it would be blocked, so that would be an issue. I also encourage you to send your paper copies through some sort of a delivery service or hand deliver them that will give you a confirmed date and time for delivery, so that you know they're being delivered on the 24th by 3 p.m. or it's being delivered by the 23rd, the end of the day. We will honor those types of delivery services where you have a receipt showing that they are to deliver it prior to the 24th at 5 p.m. Another important idea to understand, it has to do with the bottom line on this slide. The state processes can take up to and maybe even more than 45 days to get the funding to the actual LEA once the commission has released the funds. The funds are already at the commission, and we are planning to release them by October 26th if all signatures from the LEA have been received by the commission, but it will still take over a month and a half at least, for you to actually get your funds. Because the capacity planning period is fairly short and the LA will not have the funds, we want you to understand it's going to be very important that you get to work on the planning process right as of October 26th, because there will be a due date in January, which you'll see in just a moment, for the actual full proposal.
As Ms. Clark mentioned, we do have 2 other proposals as we discussed. So for our subsequent residency RFPs, our RFPs will be for the expansion grant released in mid-September and for the full residency grant released in mid-October, with expansions needing to be back to the commission by November 15th and the residency grants by January 15th, 2019.
For all 3 of these grant programs, there are some basic things we need to share. No more than 5% of the state grant funds can be used for program administration, which means 95% of the funds need to go directly to direct support of that resident. That it can include tuition, stipends for the resident, stipends for the mentor master teacher, training for the master teacher. All 3 of these grants also require a 100% match of funds. The match can be made through the partnership and can be actual funds or in kind. And you can also use matching funds for additional program administration if there are costs that exceed the 5% of the state funds.
Let's now move to some of the required attributes of a teacher residency program. As mentioned earlier, a teacher residency model is not simply a student teacher placed at an LEA where all of their program is then done at an IHE. So, number 1, the required residency program must lead to either STEM, special education teaching credential, or a bilingual authorization. Number 2, the resident must spend a minimum of 1 year in the school setting, at least half time across the year participating in all aspects of the teacher role. And 3, they must complete preparation coursework during the year as a resident.
To be very clear, I want to just identify all of the different credentials that are acceptable. In the STEM field, mathematics, there's both a foundational level math credential and the full math credential. In science, any of the 4 full science credentials, so science biology, science chemistry, science earth sciences, or science physics, as well as the foundational level general science credential. And the final credential is the industrial and technology education credential. So there are 8 different single subject credentials that are acceptable for the STEM part of this grant. For special education, any of the full preliminary special education teaching credentials are appropriate for the residency program. Because special education teachers have varied roles in the schools, each program will have to carefully consider how to structure the residents' time and experiences. For bilingual authorization, that is an additional add-on authorization. And so any credential, multiple subject, any single subject, and or special education credential, if a bilingual authorization is being earned concurrently, that credential is fine to be included as part of the bilingual authorization for this grant. And finally, to define what does it mean participating in all aspects of the teacher role, that means the resident not only is working with their master teacher in planning, delivering lessons, looking at assessments, but they're also included in yard duties, staff meetings, professional learning communities. This residency really puts that teacher, this new teacher, in your school, understanding your context and fully understanding the role of the teacher.
Some additional required attributes include number 4, that each resident works with an experienced mentor teacher. Number 5, that we are grouping candidates in a cohort for their collaboration. And in number 6, that the LEA may not charge the resident to participate in the program.
For the mentors, there are 4 specific attributes that are identified in the enabling legislation. These must be met. That would be in section F2 of the code that's attached to the RFP. The purpose of the cohorts, the collaboration will really facilitate learning for the resident, supporting high-quality teaching and learning experiences and the supportive work environment. The cohort may have to cross credential areas because you may not have enough residents for a math-only cohort. You may have a math and science cohort. And also for special education, the cohorts may have to cross multiple school sites. So the cohort may be made up of all the special education residents in a district or maybe even a consortium of districts. We do also want to point out for residents some financial support during the residency year, such as tuition assistance, some sort of a stipend, or maybe time to serve as a substitute teacher one day a week will be important to support you in finding diverse candidates for your residents.
And a few more required attributes to include number 7. The program must provide mentoring and induction to support the candidate in earning the clear teaching credential. Number 8, mentors and master teachers must be compensated either by a release time and or some type of a stipend. And finally, number 9, a resident is required to teach for 4 years in the school of the residency once the credential has been earned.
For induction, the enabling legislation prohibits the LEA from charging the resident, so this will also apply to the induction experience. The LEA may not charge the individual to do induction. If the individual does not earn a preliminary teaching credential or does not teach for 4 years, there are some specific repayment requirements, and there are also specified circumstances that will excuse the individual. So please see Education Code Section 44415, Section K for that. If the resident does not fulfill the teaching requirement and does not meet the circumstances identified in the legislation to excuse that requirement, then the commission will need to confirm with the LEA the amount of support that was provided to that resident from the grant. If the individual has taught at least 1 year, the funds that will be requested back from the individual will be adjusted proportionally. That's defined in Section M of the enabling legislation. And the LEA, which is the grant recipient, will have 60 days to pay the amount back to the commission if a resident doesn't complete their requirement. And after that, the controller will then reduce the next apportionment for the state funds to that LEA. Please see Section N of the enabling legislation for more detail.
As mentioned earlier, there are requirements for both the LEA and the IHE to meet under this grant. The first one is that, as mentioned also, an authentic partnership must occur between the LEA or LEAs and the IHE or IHEs. And number 2, there are priorities for schools where the residents will be placed. There are 4 that are indicated in the enabling legislation. They are A, that 50% or more enrolled pupils are eligible for free and reduced price meals. B, that at least 5% of the teachers are misassigned or working on a PIP or STIP. That C, they are either located in a rural or urban area. And finally, D, that cumulative voluntary teacher attrition rates have exceeded 20% over the 3 preceding years. Again, these are priorities.
To earn the point for any of those 4 priorities, there is an appendix that needs to be submitted with your application where you identify the actual school or schools where this is taking place. So you identify that at a specific school, 5% of the teachers are misassigned working on a PIP or STIP. That school is involved in this residency plan. You actually need to give us the name of the school and the CDS code for any of these 4.
The last requirement we should mention is that there must be a demonstrated need for special education, bilingual, and/or STEM teachers within your LEA.
The way to show that you have that demonstrated need is you need to provide data in your proposal. Data would include things such as the number and the percent of teachers you have in special education, bilingual education, and or STEM fields that are teaching on PIPs or provisional internship permits, STIPs, short-term staffing permits, intern documents, or any other sort of waiver or other less than fully prepared teacher. That type of data with the number of teachers, the raw number, and the actual percent of total teachers will be important to make the case that you have that need.
Let's move now to the capacity grant outcomes. These are the outcomes that we will be looking to see from our grantees. Number 1, that they develop the partnerships to offer a high-quality teacher residency preparation program. 2, they develop the plan to build capacity at the site or sites for an effective teacher residency program. Number 3, that they develop a proposal in response to the residency RFP. And number 4, that over the course of the next year, they will complete the activities to develop the capacity at their sites or sites to host a residency program.
On the residency webpage, we will be adding a number of resources that really provide a lot of background and information for you as you plan your capacity grant, your expansion grant, or your full residency proposal. Most of the research shows that a residency needs about 1 year to develop before you even start offering the courses. It'll be October when LEAs are notified that they're getting the capacity grant, and you have until next August when we would hope that your first year of residence would start. If the planning process cannot be completed within that time frame, there will most likely be additional funding opportunities for the 2020-2021 school year. There would be a new RFP that comes out for that. Think about this, because there's identifying mentors, there's the IHE tailoring the classes, deciding where the classes are held, how is this all going to work. So this really is a planning opportunity for you, and we expect that the planning and the work of preparing for the residency program will continue past January when the residency grant proposal will be due.
Moving on to submitting the proposal. As mentioned, the capacity grant proposal must be received by the Commission by 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on September 24th, 2018. Daylight time, thank you. Number 1, an electronic copy of the entire grant application must be received. And number 2, 4 paper copies of the entire grant application must be received.
I'm going to reiterate that I really encourage you to submit the electronic copy to the email on the RFP and request a confirming email that we have received your proposal, and to send your paper copies through some sort of a service or hand deliver them that will give you a confirmed time and date that you have delivered those 4 copies.
And lastly, as mentioned, we do have additional resources available that we will continue to be adding as we move through the processes of all 3 of these or 4 of these grant proposals. The resources are available on our website at the link provided in this PowerPoint. We would encourage you to go there and look at all of the resources available as you look to craft all of your proposals.
We thank you for spending a little bit of time with us as to help you understand more thoroughly the grant proposal process for this. And we encourage you to submit questions by the end of the day, September 4th. We will have those questions answered and posted on September 10th, as it shows in the RFP.